That's the shadow boxes. That's why I'm glad I got the size I did. Now we moved up there from Chicago. Chicago and then we grew up. Now I have a little bit more. The shadow boxes. It's nice. She did a really good job. We made it around it. It's usually hard place, but it does stand out.
That guy, he's served under him.
Okay, and you have a camera? Yeah, I have a camera. Okay.
Yeah, like I have it, sorry.
Beautiful dog.
Oh, thanks.
What kind of dog is that?
It's called a Leon Burger.
Leon Burger.
Leon Burger, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. bud.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleam, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streamed, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
So, I'm not known for giving short speeches, so I'll just warn you about that in advance. My name is Don Rowe, and I am the president of the USS Duluth Crew Members Association. It was the crew of the ship who worked very, very hard to bring this anchor here to the shores of Duluth. I would like to thank everyone here very much for joining this amazing celebration. That I'm able to stand here before you in the presence of this amazing monument, humbly representing the thousands of sailors, my shipmates, who proudly served aboard the USS Duluth LPD-6, as well as the many deployed U.S. Marines who called the ship their home over its proud 40-year history, is nothing short of miraculous and fills me with more emotions than I can adequately express. The Duluth was in service, proudly carrying the name of your city for 40 years. She was awarded a very impressive list of awards and citations during those 40 years, which are listed on the second bronze plaque on this monument. A number of these citations were earned multiple times, as indicated by a number in parentheses. As an example, she earned more than once the ship's equivalent of a Bronze Star, which is given for exemplary valor in battle, in this case not by an individual, but by an entire crew. As residents of the city for which this ship was named, you have much to be proud of, and we, as her crew, are honored to have had the opportunity to serve aboard this great gray lady. I want to tell you a little bit about the symbology of an anchor. Emotionally, the ship's anchor is symbolic to a sailor of safety and security. In the days of the old wooden sailing vessels, sailors would spend months at sea, often fighting for survival in stormy seas. Then, when land was finally sighted, the ship would drop and set the anchor, which held the ship safely in place while the crew was able to go ashore for some long-awaited opportunity to enjoy being on land once again and replenish supplies. I suppose the only difference between then and now is that the transits of sea are now weeks instead of months. The anchor still represents safety and security from storms and the rigors of duty at sea, the opportunity to spend a brief time ashore replenishing both supplies and spirits. Just a brief little personal story. In 1977, when the Duluth paid a visit to a small town on a very small island in the southern Philippines whose port facilities were insufficient for a ship of our size, and where I met a young college student who became my wife, Captain Grimes dropped and set both this anchor and the one on the port side of the ship to ensure the ship would remain in place against strong currents. In a very unusual way, this ship helped me meet my wife, which I'm very grateful to him for having done. In your programs, and I hope everyone has one, they're around here somewhere, is a page describing the ship's mission, how it goes about accomplishing that mission, a little bit about the ship itself. So hopefully everyone will get a copy of that and get a chance to read that. I'm going to move on to the next thing, a brief description of how we actually managed to get this anchored. We originally wanted to bring the entire ship, the entire USS Duluth here to your waterfront as a floating museum that could be enjoyed by all of you. We discovered that with the ship being 108 feet wide and the locks at the St. Lawrence Seaway, the gateway from the ocean to the Great Lakes being only 80 feet wide, an insurmountable engineering problem of 28 feet would prevent the ship from ever getting here. Then, last fall, we discovered that the ship was scheduled to be scrapped and the effort to preserve some part of it began in earnest. As recently as January of this year, we were informed that acquisition of this anchor was simply not possible. Several of us were given the great opportunity to board the ship one last time before she was deconstructed, take a few photos, and tag a few items for inclusion in a museum exhibit that we are still working currently now, today, on with the St. Louis County Historical Society to establish. Hopefully by the time we come back next year for our reunion in 2015, which happens to be the 50-year anniversary of the ship, we will have a museum exhibit in place dedicated to the memory of the USS Duluth. So we became aware right around that time that the anchor was in fact available where it had not been previously, and we began the mission to acquire that for the city and for this monument. I can't tell you, as I lost track a really long time ago, how many hundreds, even thousands of hours on the part of so many people have gone into the monument you see here today. Many of you have watched the construction down here and have watched this being put together, and those of you who are local and have seen this go up know that the anchor actually arrived here just several days ago, and about 2 days ago we put the bronze plaques on the front of it. I also can't tell you how many times we heard simply that this could not be done. I've lost track of all the people and all the times that we have been told, forget it, it's not going to happen, you can't do that. Well, I got to tell you, the last thing in the world you want to tell a gator sailor is you can't do that. That we see this here today as a lasting testament to the motto of the ship, Fortiter in Re, which means in Latin, bold in action. And to this day, we're all getting a little older, but we're still bold in action. I'd like to thank some of the people who made this possible. Now, I can't adequately express the gratitude that we, the crew of the USS Duluth, feel for the heartwarming embrace and support that we have experienced from the local community. You guys have been absolutely wonderful. I cannot thank you enough. My shipmates cannot thank you enough for all of the support that you have given us, the crew of the USS Duluth. And we thank all of you very, very much for making this dream a reality. Now, I'd like to read a list of all the companies and the people who made this possible, but then we'd be here a very long time, and I'm going to move things along. So instead, I'm going to refer you to the handouts, and on the back of the handouts is a list of the companies whose contributions made this possible. Now, I want everyone here to understand something that's very, very important. What you see here today was 100% donated by your community. Not one penny changed hands to create this amazing monument. And I think that's a testament to you, the citizens of Duluth, and all of the companies here in Duluth, that this was created. There's Mr. John Werner. Mr. Werner, please join me up here at the podium. I want everybody to know that without this man and his undying sacrifices, this would not be sitting here today. Trust me when I tell you, he's got my phone number memorized. And I can't tell you how many times a day we called each other to bring this together. I swear, I think that he knows every single person within 100 miles of this city. And this is the gentleman who's responsible for building our monument. And I want to thank John very much for doing that. No? I'd like everybody to take a little bit of a look at this item I'm holding in my hand. This little piece of steel that's cut in the shape of the USS Duluth was taken from the hull of the ship. This came from the bow of the ship. Every one of us who served aboard that ship spent many hours at sea watching the waves crash across the bow of that ship. This piece of steel came from the bow. It was cut in the shape of the ship. There are only 60 of these in existence. They are only owned by USS Duluth shipmates, with the exception of this one. That I would like to along with a certificate of authenticity from the scrapyard certifying that that piece of metal really actually came from the bow. Okay.
Well, thank you very much, Don, and what a proud day for our community and a proud day for the crew of the USS Duluth, and to make this wonderful monument possible. And it was just a short time ago that the USS Duluth crew members had a reunion in the city of Duluth, and for many it was their first time in our community. And yet, because of their love of their ship, their rightfully proud service to our country, there was a connection between those members that served on this great ship and our community. And with this monument, we are further solidifying the relationship, and now will always be remembered as an important part of our nation's history and an important part of our community's history. This is a big week in the city of Duluth. It is Navy Week. We have the air show taking place. Earlier today we had the stand down, McPhee's stand down, all of which are reflections of our community's support for our nation's military and for those who serve in our nation's military. Duluth is proud to be a yellow ribbon community, yet again demonstrating our commitment to serving those active duty members and their families during deployment. And I want to take a moment to recognize and thank the city staff who helped in making this possible. Kathy Bergen, Terry Ryla, the park maintenance crews who are currently doing the landscaping and will continue to do some of that landscaping, and the others that supported this effort and made it possible. I want to give special recognition to Don Rowe, the gentleman that you just heard from. Don is a champion. He's a champion for all the crew members of the USS Duluth. He is a champion for maintaining and preserving and promoting our nation's history and the importance of the service to our country. And if it weren't for Don Rowe, we certainly wouldn't be gathered here today. We wouldn't have this wonderful monument in place. So let's all take a moment and give Don. This is a continuation of a vision that's starting to come together. Only a few short years ago, the Vietnam Memorial was the only piece along this lake walk. We now have the Korean Memorial and then this great monument. And I think it is very appropriate for a community like Duluth who does support our nation's military, understands the importance of continuing to reach out and bring exposure to the great service of so many men and women in our country and in our community, that we continue to look for opportunities to use this land, one of the most prominent pieces of land in the city of Duluth, having visitors and residents alike who travel the lake walk and look out onto our great lake, that we continue to look for opportunities to build this out as a place that people can come and honor the service of so many men and women to our country. So again, thank you all for being here, and Don, thank you for your efforts.
All right, hey, how we doing today, everybody? Great. Congressman Nolan, how you doing, sir? Mayor Ness, how you doing? It's great to be here today to represent the United States Navy. It's fantastic that you're able to tie this dedication into our week here in Duluth. You know, I'm having a fantastic week. I think the rest of the men and women here are enjoying themselves. I've commented before on how friendly everybody's been to all of us. And as I think about it, you go back in history, and Duluth is a maritime town, or a maritime city and a Navy city. Going back in history, Duluth built PT boats in support of World War II. A lot of the steel that made our ships in World War II came out of Minnesota and went through Duluth. And this fine ship served over 40 years. And there's not a lot of ships that served 40 years in the United States Navy, and served in some very important conflicts and events during our history, including Vietnam, during the Somalia evacuation, the Exxon Valdez oil spill, and several other operations that were key critical components in our history. It's fantastic that y'all take the time to come out here and join us to dedicate this. I echo the mayor's sentiments about what a perfect location as people walk up and down and ride their bikes and see this and think about the U.S. Navy. U.S. Navy's out there every day preserving the nation's freedom, our quality of life. 90% of the commerce of the world travels over the seas, and the Navy continues to make sure that happens every day. For the people of Minnesota, that's $20 billion worth of Minnesota business is going over the seas, and we're making sure it continues. So thank you all very much for the opportunity to be part of this ceremony. Thank you for welcoming us into town here today. I'm here till Saturday night, and I look forward to getting a chance to talk with more of you over the next couple days. So thank you very much. Enjoy the day.
A governor, he's in charge of a floating city. We make water, we make electricity, and we do much, much more. He literally holds on his shoulders the lives, in this case, of 450 men, ship's crew, and 1,000 Marines, all of which rests on his shoulders and his decisions. And it wasn't until much later in life, when I was an older and somewhat hopefully wiser man, that I came to understand what that really meant. There are two gentlemen with us here today who once commanded the USS Duluth, and I'd like to introduce them to you. And if they'd like to step up and say a few words, we'd be honored. The first one I'd like to introduce is Captain Paul Cruz, Commanding Officer 96 to 99.
I'd like to echo my thanks to everybody who participated in bringing this monument to the city of Duluth and a monument to the sailors and Marines that served on Duluth. My short period of command on Duluth was truly an honor, and on behalf of those sailors and Marines that served with me, on behalf of the sailors and Marines that served on Duluth, I would like to thank you. One of the things that I failed on during my command, and I thought about it, was making that connection, reaching out to the city of Duluth in order to foster that relationship. I failed during my 18-month tour, but I'm pleased to see that through Don's efforts, John's efforts, and in fighting through the bureaucracy of the United States Navy, which I'm fully aware of, that we were able to succeed. I was not able to participate in the reunion. In fact, I wasn't even aware there was a crew members association. but through the efforts of Don and Captain Grimes, who come up here after me, I was made aware, and I am honored to be a member of that association. And I was truly pleased as I was walking across the street towards the hotel to see a couple of members of my crew step up and show up. I wasn't aware they were going to be here, but I'm truly honored that they're here to share. And this is, we're talking generations here. When you figure the ship has been in commission for 40 years, you're talking multiple generations of sailors and Marines. And I think it is beautiful to see these sailors and Marines through those ages, those generations get together and honor the city, honor the ship, and honor each other. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Who is very, very dear to my heart. This man was my commanding officer. I have come to think of him as a second father. I am beyond honored to call this man my friend. I would like to introduce to you the commanding officer of the USS Duluth, 1976 to 1980, Captain Lawrence H. Grimes. I'm going to ask Captain Grimes to indulge me on something that I haven't had the honor of doing since 1978, sir.
Captain of the Duluth, it was the first ship that I've ever commanded. I was the executive officer on an aircraft carrier, but it was more fun on the Duluth because you're the man in charge. But this type of a presentation of this anchor that I've dropped several times, Don, I feel as though I'm part of his arranging for him to meet his wife, who I interviewed in my cabin before they got married. As a matter of fact, his wife came up to me at the reception one time and said, "How come you invited me to the cabin for lunch with the chaplain and you didn't invite my fiance?" Well, I said it was standard Navy procedure, if you being a foreign national, that I had to interview you. That's somewhat true. But the greatest experience that I've had is to see young men that I served with recognize me, and they're all older now. And I'll tell you one quick story. We've been up here long enough. This young man came up and he said, "The last time I saw you is a captain's mass, which is a disciplinary hearing," and he said, "You put me in the brig for 10 days or something like that." I didn't remember that, but I said, "You must have done something bad." And he said, "Well, I did. I was into drugs, and you saved my life. And now I'm happily married, and here's my wife and my son." Boy, that touched me. So the city of Duluth has touched me, and I thank you for doing things for us, and we've all talked long enough.
This anchor is 22,500 pounds. Each link of the anchor chain is 72 pounds. Now, if you look at the photograph of the ship, you'll see that this enormous anchor is this little tiny object way up here on the bow, which gives you a little bit of perspective on the size of the ship. 569 feet long, 108 feet wide. It was massive. And where is that Marine?
Okay, my name is Dan Struhl. I was in the Marines from 1971 to 1973. I served on the USS Duluth as an Amtrak crewman, which is an amphibious tractor driver. We were picked up by the USS Duluth in Okinawa in January of '72. And we served on there until about probably June of 1972. Now, if you look at the plaque here, the ship earned the Combat Action Ribbon May 24th of 1972. I was there. The ship picked up some South Vietnamese Marines, and we brought them with our Amtrak to the beach under fire in combat. We were supported by the many other ships, the Oklahoma City and the Newport News. We were taking fire on the way in and on the way back. But I was very proud to serve the U.S. Duluth and help earn that ship the Combat Action Ribbon. They were taking fire as well as us. So you can be, I hope the citizens of Duluth are proud. I am from Duluth, Minnesota. I've lived here all my life. And I was so proud to be on the USS Duluth that time that I was there. So thank you for listening to my story. I hope you're very proud of this ship, because I'll tell you, I am. Yeah.
Okay. Mr. Wheat. Where is Mr. Wheat? I think all of you here in Duluth know Mr. Wheat. Mr. Wheat was held in a Vietnam prisoner of war camp for 7 years, 4 months, and some number of days. And we all thank Mr. Wheat for his service. I'm so honored to have you here today, sir, to help us honor this anchor monument. Thank you very much for coming, sir.
What a great event. The only way I can imagine it would be better is if my father and my brother were here, because they were both Navy men. And how much fun it's been to see the sailors at the gala event last night, and to see you fellows around town. And I don't know if you saw, but I saw people applauding you just by seeing you on the street. What a good-looking bunch of young people. Give them all a big hand. I find it interesting to note that Senator Roger Reinhardt is probably one of the few that can still fit into his uniform. Nice work, I too want to begin by praising our mayor, Don Ness, because I know he was very helpful in making this possible. But I want to join Don in praising Don Rowe and his crew for all the work that you did. It was incredible, Don. The story is already becoming legendary. You never gave up. No. You never took no for an answer. And as a result, you know, you mobilized the community, you mobilized our crew, you mobilized the business, the volunteers, and as a result of it, the anchor for the USS Duluth has found a safe harbor. And what a great ship it was. Its service to our great nation was incredible. And we need to remind ourselves it was not only in military operations, but in humanitarian operations as well. Its record is unparalleled, and we have so much to be thankful and so proud of the great honor that the USS Duluth has brought to our community and to our great nation. We need to stand up and be as proud as we have ever been. Thank you to all of you who have made this event possible, and thank the city for the memorials that you're placing along the walkway here. Because I'll tell you, Abe Lincoln said it better than any of us ever could. I might be paraphrasing a little bit, but we need to remind our youth and our people of the sacrifices that the men and women who have worn the uniform have made to protect our freedom, to protect our nation. And it was Abraham Lincoln who said, if a nation doesn't show its respect for the men and women who have served in the past, you'll never be able to mobilize its youth in the future. And this is a wonderful memorial today here for the great service that the USS Duluth has rendered to our great nation. Hats off to all of you who have been a part of it, all of you who sailed on that great ship, and most importantly, maybe the fact that you have established this memorial and brought this anchor to a safe harbor to remind us always, forever, the great service that this ship has done. So now, as I understand the program, now, Don said he's ripped it up and thrown it apart, so I might be wrong here, Don, but he'll correct me, I'm sure. But I'm going to turn it back over to Don, and Don is going to pay tribute and honor those men and women who sacrificed their lives in the service of not just the USS Duluth, but our great nation. Thank you all very much. It's a great honor to be a part of all this.
Thank you, Congressman. There is.
Give us a wave, Mark.
You know what? We were actually engaged in conference calls every other week talking about establishing a museum when this anchor dropped in our laps. And Mark shifted gears, and he just gave us his undying support. And I got to tell you two things. The first one is, I don't know what Mark earns, but he deserves a raise. And the second one is, you need to get reelected so he can keep his job.
All right.
27 men, one of whom was a close friend of mine, and we lost him over the side at sea on a stormy night. I don't know how many men that we lost during the 40-year history of the ship, if we lost 27 of them during the 3 years I was there. So at this point in time, we would like to pay tribute to all of those USS Duluth crew members, my shipmates, who are now sailing the eternal seas. Am I supposed to point to someone? Ah. Okay, folks, this concludes our ceremony. Before everybody runs away, there's one last thing I want to tell you about. One of the most difficult things that we had to do was figure out how do we tell the story of this ship to all of the folks who might come by and see this monument now and in the future. It's very hard to wrap your head around the concept of trying to tell someone a story 50 years from now, 100 years from now. And there's only so much that can be accomplished in a couple of bronze plaques. So what we've also done is right up here, you'll see this funny looking little thing that looks like a barcode. It's known as a QR code. Those of you who have smartphones and tablets, you can scan this and it will provide to you a nice little video we put together that will tell the story of the ship. This was put together by the folks at Beat Think Stories, and we'd like to thank them for helping us out with that, because it's not easy to try to tell the story of the ship in a couple of plaques, and they helped us out with that. So everybody scan that thing and take a look at our story. All right, some of you would like a photo op. All of my shipmates from the USS Duluth. You want to come up? You want to bring her up? You can come up with pictures. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you.
Driving the seminars here.
Right now, I'm a captain, so, or was a captain. I'm retired.
Yep, the graphic right there. Yep, that's right. This one?
You go one below that one.
This one?
Oh, yep.
Okay. Filming.
All right, we just warn you guys that some people talk with their hands. We gesture, we hear really loud upstairs. So it's not really cool. If you get the mic. Yes.
Close in northeastern Minnesota, on the web at northlandfdn.org.
Center along with Pat Kelly, and here's what's coming up on Almanac North.
We're all about Navy Week tonight. We'll talk with former crew members of the USS Duluth.
And later in the show, we'll lift off on a World War II era C-47, just part of this weekend's big air show in Duluth.
And we'll have the week's business news and look back at Duluth's Aviation Expo 89.
By air, land, and sea, Almanac North is next. Thanks for watching. Pat Kelly is in this week for Denny and Pat. It's good to have you here.
It's nice to be here. There's so much going on this weekend in Duluth. A few low-tech items like the Dragon Boat Festival or the Lakehead Harvest Reunion up in Esco, but boy, high-tech well represented too with the Air and Aviation Expo and of course Navy Week.
And that's what we're going to be talking about tonight. The Navy that's come ashore this week, so let's get right into it.
Absolutely, Julie. Thanks. The Twin Ports has quite a nautical tradition as one of the world's busiest freshwater harbors, so bringing Navy Week to a port city like Duluth makes sense on many levels. Crew members from the USS Minnesota, one of the Navy's newest nuclear subs, have been in town all week. Today on the Lake Walk, former crew members of the USS Duluth were present for the dedication of the ship's anchor along the Lake Walk. So we thought it only appropriate to bring the Navy into the studio tonight. Joining us is Don Rowe, president of the USS Duluth Crew Members Association. Lawrence Grimes served as the Duluth's captain from 1976 to 1978. And Captain Paul Cruz led the Duluth some 20 years later, from 1997 to 1999. Welcome to Duluth. Thanks to all of you for being here.
Thanks for having us.
Tell us a little bit about how this ceremony has been, how this week has been for you in Duluth with the dedication.
It's been amazing and absolutely surreal. You know, getting a piece of the ship and getting this monument built, and the anchor just arrived here in Duluth just a few weeks ago, and we had to scramble to get the monument base constructed. We literally attached the bronze plaques to the face of the monument 2 days ago, dodging the rain in between the clouds, so we got everything done just in time for the ceremony.
Captain Grimes, why is this an appropriate resting place for the anchor from the USS Duluth?
The ship was named after the city, and that's special. Not many cities get ships named after them. As you probably know, the city of Duluth, there were two ships. One was a light cruiser in World War II, and my ship, and Paul's ship was the other one, an LPD. So it's quite an honor, first of all, to be here to celebrate this special occasion. And Don and his wonderful job of getting the anchor out of the ship. Our ship was demolished, intentionally, and taken apart, but we were able to get the anchor. And the anchor belongs in the city, because it's your ship.
Where has the anchor been since the ship was demolished?
The ship was taken apart in a town called Brownsville, Texas, which is called Esco Marine, and that's what they do. And they're tearing apart a lot of our old oil-burning carriers as well. And of course, all of our carriers in the Navy today are nuclear powered. And there are two more coming. One, the Gerald Ford is being built, and if Congress approves it, the John F. Kennedy #2 will be built. So it's all nuclear powered carriers now. So all of the old oil burners, we call them, are being torn apart.
Still, quite a proud history for the Duluth. Captain Cruz, from Vietnam to the Indian Ocean tsunami, decades of service. What kind of missions did the Duluth perform?
Well, you mentioned the humanitarian service missions, which the Navy has done a lot most recently. A lot of trips to the Persian Gulf, Operation Desert Storm, Operation Iraqi Freedom. I deployed with the sailors and Marines of Duluth in summer of '98, and we had a contingent of Marines, SEALs, and primarily spent the time doing maritime interdiction operations.
What sort of duty would they have performed, say, during the Exxon Valdez oil spill?
I wasn't on board the ship during that time frame, but one of the things the ship is capable of doing is acting as a mothership. It is a large platform, lots of space. The well deck is huge, and that serves as almost like a large warehouse, which is multi-purpose. LPD has had everything in there from amphibious assault vehicles to landing craft. They occasionally put marine mammals in there when they're doing a mine warfare mission, and they carry all sorts of freight. So if you have a mission where you have to haul first aid, humanitarian materials, it's a perfect vessel for doing that. You just roll it right in, go up alongside a pier, put a ramp down, and you just haul. You can haul flatbeds in there, semis. Just gripe them down, and you're ready to go.
Sounds like you have a pretty active crew members association. Is it unusual for people who have served on a vessel to stay disconnected to each other and to the history of the vessel beyond your systems?
It's not unusual for ships to have crew members associations, but typically they tend to exist for the sole purpose of having occasional reunions. Our ship's motto, Dreary, which is Latin for bold in action, is something that we always embraced when we were active duty aboard the ship, and we've kind of continued that tradition afterwards. So to just have reunions isn't quite enough for us. So we have much bigger goals and ambitions. The anchor was something that was kind of a surprise part of that. We were engaged in conference calls at the time to form and establish a museum here in Duluth for the USS Duluth. And suddenly we became aware that the anchor was available, and we shifted gears over to acquiring the anchor and building the monument. So now that we have that task completed, we're now going to focus back on the creation of the museum. So yes, it's kind of unusual for crew members associations to engage in those kinds of ambitious activities, but for us, it's what we do. So.
Talk about the dedication ceremony today, Captain. We have some video of it, and what it was like being there.
It was just absolutely wonderful. To look at that monument, and I was so impressed with the many contractors here in the city of Duluth who contributed, Don, was it something like $150,000 worth, or maybe more?
And there were about 25 companies, give or take a couple. I think we're still adding companies on because there's a couple of tasks to be finished, but about 25 companies that contributed absolutely every part of this. And there was not one penny spent to build this monument.
And I think that's incredible for a city to come up with that type of money and desire to help us build it. Not only to sit there and see that beautiful monument that we had to get ready for this occasion today on time was just spectacular. And then the young men who that participated in there with the color guard and the whole. It's just, as a Navy guy, you never forget that because you're part of that patriotism that you see. And it was absolutely spectacular to me. And it brings back fond memories of my crew. That the captain sits up in his chair, but his 400 and some odd people make it work. And to see them up there and in an association, this makes me feel awfully good.
Captain Cruz, did you have similar emotions today during the dedication?
I certainly did. It's you know, the amount of effort that went into making this event happen is unbelievable. I'm a kind of a latecomer. I did not make the first reunion, and Don and Captain Grimes reached out and got in contact with me. So after I found out the organization was in place, I was gung-ho and ready to help participate. I missed out on commissioning, so this is taking the place of missing out on commissioning, and for me it was a good place to be. It's a good opportunity to touch base, reconnect with the sailors and some of the Marines that were part of Duluth's history.
Captain Cruz, do you have a specific special memory of your duty on board?
Well, the thing that really, well, a couple of things. One, we were coming back in December of '98. It was the 33rd birthday celebration for the ship, and it was a happy time. We're coming back from the Persian Gulf. We coming straight back. Had not had any liberty ports in route, which was the mission, and we were talking about the ship. And one of the things, there's a lot of discussion about the ship, but to me, there's a lot of the spirit comes from the men, sailors and the Marines. So that was the big thing I was talking to them about. The ship is only as good as the sailors and the Marines, and the energy and the spirit they put into it. And you know, about a week later, the thing that I remember is getting back from deployment successfully, bringing them back, all the sailors and Marines. That was a big thing to me, that being able to say that we went out, we did our mission, and everybody came back safely.
Were there Marines often on board the ship?
Yes.
The crew?
Yes. From the day after, well, actually the day you get on the way in San Diego, you just go up the coast to Camp Pendleton and you start loading Marines. And some of them were already on board, but primarily you load all of the amphibious assault vehicles and the land craft that same day, and usually you complete that load out the first day. Then you turn west and start heading west.
After this segment, we're going to have a little video that shows some of the history of the ship, and people can access this video right from the monument, I understand.
That's correct. There's something called a QR code. It's a little square thing that looks sort of like a barcode.
We saw it in the video.
Okay. If you scan that with your smartphone or your tablet, it takes you to a video that gives you a little bit more of the history, a little more understanding of the ship and its mission. One of the big challenges that we were faced with in something like this is how do you tell a story in 2 bronze plaques? It's nearly impossible. So that's what we came up with, is it's a way to express to people who will be passing by this monument, not only now, but 50 years from now, however long from now, to get a little bit understanding of the story of the ship and why is this anchor here, etc.
Captain Grimes, do you have a particular memory of your duty on board the ship?
I really do. For example, all my experience is in aviation, but when I got aboard the ship, I'm a graduate of the Naval Academy, 1955, a long time ago, so I was trained in some way in ship handling, but coming aboard a big ship that's almost 600 feet long was quite an experience for me. And what I learned so many things from the surface officers, and the bridge team was spectacular to me. And they were just like part of my family. And I wish I could do it all again. It was quite a nice feeling. So, you know, the surface officers call us flyers Airedales, which we are. And I was honored to be selected to command a amphibious ship. So I'll always remember that.
Of course, the timing of the dedication this week coincides with Navy Week here in Duluth. Tell us about that and how important it is for the Navy to kind of have that face time with people in the community.
It's incredibly important, and in fact, we selected the date of the dedication long before we had even acquired the anchor physically. And I have very fond memories of John Warner, who was the gentleman who acted as project manager to actually get it built, panicking because we had scheduled entertaining the Navy band and some other of the events for the ceremony while the anchor was still in the scrapyard down in Brownsville, and we hadn't put a shovel in the ground yet and many other things. But we wanted to shoot for that date during Navy Week because of the fact that it's Navy Week and there was a focus on the Navy and Navy-related events, and of course the air show is this weekend. So it seemed like it wouldn't make sense to schedule it for any time other than during Navy Week. So we went ahead and scheduled it, and somehow we managed to get it complete in time.
Very well. Petty Officer role, Captain Grimes, Captain Cruz, you handled this land duty really well. Thank you very much for being here today.
Thank you. Thank you, Ben. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much.
Let's dig into our youth file archive. Well, look at what was mentioned 25 years ago this week.
So what were you going to say, your favorite memory?
I was standing on the deck approximately 4 stories above the
They
waterline.
buzzed through the air like insects on fire, leaving
at the
trails
top
of
of the
smoke as they
16
etched
foot
precision.
tall wave.
Of course, there was no mistaking the stars of the show, the U.S. Navy Blue Angels.
This was my commanding officer. We served together.
1 year ago. Tell me how long it's been service. Generations.
Service of the vessel named in honor of Duluth. A video of that history has been prepared for anyone who wants to learn more about the decommissioned ship known as an amphibious transport dock. People with smartphones can view the video when they visit the anchor. Let's take a look. Bet you've seen this before. You have to read some business headlines.
The Forest Service is not doing enough to fully use the area's timber resources. Bayfield Economic Development Corporation Director Scotty State.
And finally tonight we've got some video of one of the planes featured in this weekend's big air show at Duluth International Airport. The